Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Technically T here, and today I'm bringing you my final review for the Samsung Galaxy Note 8. Now, as you guys know, I did have the Note 8 ever since pre-order date, which was, I guess, almost trying to come up under a month now, a little under a month, 2-3 weeks that I've had my main SIM in the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 all the way until I got my iPhone 8 Plus, which I'm recording this video right now in 4K, 60 frames per second. Just throwing it out there. So I have had enough time to use it. I felt like I had, enough daily driver time in to actually give my accurate review of the phone. So guys, I'm not gonna try to make this review too long. I know a lot of my full reviews sometimes go over 30 minutes. Sometimes I go a little bit more detailed than I can, or maybe talk a little bit more than I need to. So I'm gonna try to keep this review fairly quick and fairly simple. We're just gonna touch on the key parts of the phone. So here we go. The first thing we're gonna talk about, guys, is the build quality. Now, if you guys know, the build quality on the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 is probably the best build quality that I've had in a mobile phone that I've owned. Out of the personal mobile devices that I've owned, guys, the build quality is simply amazing. I mean, the screen, the edge-to-edge display, I mean, everything about it, guys, is A1. I really like holding this device naked in the hand, but I know I can't do it. I have to run a case because I know it's so fragile. The glass on both sides, I don't even want to set myself up for that. But guys, the display is absolutely beautiful. I feel like everything is well made, well thought of. There's no creaking, no anything going on with it. Definitely one of the best built phones that I've held. I know to me, it feels better in my hand than my iPhone 8 Plus for sure. And it definitely feels better in hand than the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. And the only reason why I say that is the Note 8 is more of a squared off design, where the Samsung S8 Plus has rounded edges. And with those rounded edges, it's kind of a little hard to hold that phone while it's no case or anything on it. But I did find it a little easier to hold the Note 8. I found it a little more pleasing that this case, that the footprint of this phone was more rectangular, more squared off design, and it feels actually good while holding it in your hand. Yes, if you're not used to the Note series, or if you're not used to the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus series, the device will seem a little long in your hand. It does feel that way, but I have big hands, and it does feel a little long to where you have to reach the top to get to your notification bar or something, but it's not too bad for me. But for your normal average user, guys, it will feel a little funny when holding the device and actually reaching around to do certain things. I mean, the footprint is big. It is a large device, but the build quality is absolutely A1, guys. Samsung really, really nailed it when it came to the build quality of the Note 8. Next, we're going to talk about the screen, guys. And I know this is something that you can never pick up on camera. And even though this is a 4K video, it's something you won't be able to pick up on camera, guys. But the screen is absolutely beautiful. Samsung kills the screen games. I don't really see many screens out there touching it when it comes to Samsung devices. It's beautiful. It's bright outside, man. You can crank that brightness up and you're not missing anything. I mean, everything about this screen is great. The viewing angles are amazing. You don't really get too many blind viewing angles when you're dealing with this screen, but Samsung just knows how to do it when it comes to screens. Now, I know it'll be put to test later on. I heard the LG V30 screen I heard that's going to be a great screen. I'm sure the iPhone X screen will be a great screen. But right now, guys, Samsung is on top dog performance when they deal with their screen. You cannot beat them. Out the box, you always got to make sure that your settings are always, crank them up, guys. If you get a phone that has this capability of running this type of resolution, guys, don't limit itself and have it down to just 1080. Go ahead and crank it up. As soon as I bring it out the box, guys, I crank it up. I don't worry about battery life or anything. I need this screen to its full potential. And if you really want to see the screen to its full potential, guys, head over to YouTube, look at an HDR video, and that speaks for itself, guys. That HDR video on the Note 8 is absolutely beautiful. The colors are stunning. It's nothing you can't expect from Samsung and how they do their screens, guys. So the screen quality is absolutely beautiful on the Samsung Galaxy Note 8. Next, we're going to talk about one of the most controversial things ever since it was moved, guys, and we're going to talk about that fingerprint scanner. Now, for me, I always once said, and I still say it, it's overblown. And excuse all the fingerprints, guys. I mean, you're going to have to deal with them when it comes to this case review, because doing a case review without a case on it, guys, is going to get tons of fingerprints on it. But, guys, I feel like this fingerprint scanner is so overblown. it doesn't make any sense. Yes, it's not your norm. Yes, it's not where you normally would want a fingerprint scanner. Most people either want it down here in the bottom bezel or in the middle of the vise. But guys, how much hassle is it just to reach your hand up there and hit it and it unlocks? I'm tired of reviewers always making a big deal out of the fingerprint scanner when it's not meant to be. Just because it's not in your ideal location doesn't mean it's a bad location. I said the same exact thing for the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, and it's no different here, guys. The fingerprint scanner is yeah, it's not in your ideal location, guys, but it works, and it works fine. I mean, you look at me, I'm just boom, and it unlocks. I mean, it's very accurate, guys. I haven't had many misreads. It's actually very, very accurate. And I always go out on a limb and say it. Sometimes it can be better than Touch ID, and that's just my personal experience. I feel like when I have it and I unlock it, guys, it's never gave me an issue whatsoever unless I just didn't touch it all the way. But it's fast, it's accurate. Android is getting better with updating their apps to support the fingerprint scanner. That was one real big thing that I did not like about fingerprint scanners on any Android device is the apps didn't update to where you can log in with your fingerprint scanner. And that was a big adjustment for me coming from the iPhone, always back and forth between iPhone and Notes or iPhone and Samsungs. Having apps that log in with your ID with your fingerprint is the way to go. And when I would go back to Android, I would have to type in my passwords again. That just really annoyed me. So the fingerprint scanner works good, guys. It works accurate. Once again, I don't have that many misreads. It's quick. It gets straight to the point. When Samsung Pay, Android Pay, whatever you use, guys, it works good. It's just not in you guys' ideal location, but that's not a deal breaker for me. Next, while we're on the topic of unlocking devices, let's talk about the facial recognition unlocking. So when the iPhone X came out, guys, I was all on board for it. And after the keynote died down, I started to think about, do I want to actually face unlock my phone all the time? And I was like, no, I don't. You know, it's convenient when you're in places, you can hit Touch ID and you can be done with it. And there's no need to have a face. I don't want to lift it up and do my Face ID every time. So I said, well, let me finally turn on the Face ID. Well, excuse me, the facial recognition feature on the Note 8 and see how it does. So I turned it on, maybe, and it's actually still on. I have the fingerprint set and facial ID still on. Now, while I'm behind the camera, let me see if I can see. That was all my face right there. So if you guys, I'm not touching the fingerprint scanner. If you look down here, you see my hands are down here. Now I'm going to look off screen, and this is how it could maybe be a little flawed since I'm behind the tripod, but I'm going to look at it again and you can test the speed. It's kind of hard to get, but it worked when I was around the fingerprint scanner, but it may be picking up some chords or things in the way, but the facial recognition works pretty decent. You know, I would say it works 90% of the time. A few times it didn't work and you have to hold it up at a different angle to get it to work. And that's what I fear about some of these manufacturers. If they do try to go away and follow the Apple way of making it all facial recognition, I'm not sure if I'm going to go with it, guys, because I don't want to be having to turn my phone at different angles for it to work. But I'm not knocking the facial recognition on the Note 8. It does work pretty well. It works majority of the time, but it's just something I don't want to get used to. I like fingerprint scanners. That's the way I like unlocking my devices. I would almost go back to the 4-digit PIN before I use a facial recognition feature to unlock my device all the time. So that's a little bit on the facial recognition, guys. I do have it on and I'm going to leave it on. Maybe it's something that gets better over time. Maybe a software update to make it a little bit better. But I'll maybe report back later on how I feel about the facial recognition. But for right now, guys, like I said, it works about 90% of the time. And it works well. It works in the darkness and you can't be, some people say it can't be fooled by a picture. I've had my personal friend, shout out to CJ on the Tech Couple. I told him to make a video out of it, but he didn't. But he had actually printed out a picture and it actually fooled the Note 8 and it opened the Note 8 and unlocked it. So I know facial recognition probably has a long way to go, guys, but it's not terrible on the Note 8. It just maybe can use a few improvements, but that's everything when you've only been dealing with it for a short period of time. Next, let's go into the camera, guys. Now, I'm not really going to talk too much about the camera. I do have a few samples where I went out to a Georgia half-mile racing event where there were some real cool cars, some really great colors. I really had a chance to use the live focus mode, and I will insert those pictures right now. So after taking those pictures, guys, I was amazed by the live focus mode. I wasn't really sold on it. Now, I haven't used the live focus mode on an actual person. I should have done that. So a lot of those live focus pictures that you've just seen may be a little, you know, might have a little bit of textured edges and things like that. But overall, guys, the camera on the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 is always amazing. Sometimes it will take pictures that are a little oversaturated, but you ought to come to notice that when you're talking about a Samsung camera. More people like a more natural camera. You want to take a picture of what you actually see. Your viewfinder and what you actually see sometimes are not accurate when it comes to the Samsung Galaxy Note 8. Sometimes the Note 8 can misrepresent a little bit of color, guys, and won't give you that accurate look. And sometimes that's where it's a little more, the colors are a little more punchy than they need to be. But Samsung, I think, need to work a little bit better with their, I don't know, just getting their color together. I feel like Apple and iPhones, they focus a little bit more on the color representation and how accurate the colors are. You take a picture of what you see, that's what you see when you look at the picture. You see what I'm saying? So Samsung is a great camera. Don't get me wrong. This is definitely one of the top cameras out there, but I think they should work on their color representation just a little bit, guys, to where we take a picture and we go back and look at that picture. That's exactly what we see, and not a completely oversaturated, full of colors pictures when actually looking at it. But those camera samples, you know, those camera samples were in the video, and hopefully the quality will stay the same. So if you missed that, you know, you can rewind back a few minutes. But those pictures were in the review here. So next, let's go to the performance and the battery life aspect. So guys, as you know, Notes, new Samsung experience, they're going away from TouchWiz, guys. But for me, I feel like it's all the same. The performance is A1, not too many lags, not too many stutters. As I've said before, Samsung is really getting this performance thing under control. It's just the interface, the Samsung overlay, Samsung experience, aka TouchWiz on top of Android, still gives it a little bit of jank here and there. Now, majority, guys, this phone is very smooth. You don't really run into a lot of it. You know, you have your Samsung bloatware that I'll go in, disable, I'll change my animation scale in the developer options. If you've been rocking with Android, you know all about that. I've done all those things, guys, and it's mostly, I would say, smooth for the most part. But sometimes, guys, I don't want to have to always go into my device maintenance and optimize my device. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have to make that a ritual of doing that every couple hours or every couple days. Like, that's where your memory and your RAM and everything will start to get bogged down. Even though this does have 6 gigs of RAM, when it's usable, I'm not even sure how much of it is used right now. But let's see if I can go in device maintenance. Let's go to memory, and let's see how much I'm using right now. So as you see, guys, available gigs, it's just 1. Your system and everything is using 4. You see what I'm saying? So the thing about it is, yeah, they'll say, oh yeah, it has 6 gigs of RAM, but how much is it actually free available for you to do your powerhouse things on your device? So after a while, guys, after I use this device for a long time, sometimes I can feel it may get a tad bit sluggish, but it's nothing like it used to be back in the day when we're talking about Samsung lag. But it's still relevant. Sometimes some frame drops you might get, guys, but most of the time, this device is very smooth. But can it be smoother? Yes. And should Samsung get rid of the Samsung experience completely and start all over? Yes. It's time for Samsung to ditch this whole TouchWiz type thing and just start over. I wish they still made Google Play editions, because with the features that this phone has, and you slap some pure Android on top of it without sacrificing any of the image processing from the camera or anything like that, this camera would be an absolute beast. I mean, this phone would be an absolute beast, and it'll probably be one of the top dogs on the market. This is already the best Samsung phone and one of the best Android phones that's out right now. But if you were to put a stock version of Android on top of this phone would be a top dog. No, without a question, guys. But sometimes I just still hate the Samsung. You know, the Samsung, it has so many features that's not needed. I know some of those smart features, guys, I have half of those turned off. So I feel like they cram a lot into this phone that's not actually being used by your average consumers out here. But performance is solid. Sometimes when you're doing a lot, guys, it can, you know, jig and jank here or there, but it's not too bad. Next, we're going to talk about the battery life. Now, that's one thing that I can probably say that's a negative on this phone. Coming from the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, where it had a 3,500 milliamp hour, this has a what, 33? I could be wrong. 3,300 milliamp hour, and you know, In my initial impression, guys, I told myself, oh, I don't think the battery will be that much big of a difference, but it actually is. Those 200 milliamp hours that's different between the Note 8 and the SA Plus are a big difference. My SA Plus can last a lot longer than this Note 8. Will this Note 8 get me through the day? Yeah, it'll get me through the day. You know what I mean? But can I go hardcore with it and expect to last me all day? No, I can't. You know, if I go hardcore with it, maybe when I'm at work on a slow day or something, guys, by the time it gets to be 2:30 and I started going hardcore with it since 7 o'clock, sometimes I have to plug my charger in just to get that extra bit of juice to last me throughout the day until I get home and go to bed at night. So the the battery, guys, is the one weak point when it comes to this Note 8. Now, once again, that's something that can be probably fixed with a software update. This phone, my phone at least, and this is the AT&T model, hasn't had a software update yet. So a lot of these things I'm talking about, guys, could potentially be fixed later on down the road. And I'll do a later on down the road review with the phone because I do still use this phone a lot alongside with my 8 Plus. So maybe when we get a couple software upgrades, hopefully they'll come. You know how carriers do with software upgrades, but hopefully they'll come and actually make this device a little bit better, a little bit smoother. But for right now, guys, the battery is a little iffy. I wouldn't actually depend on this to go straight beast mode and last through the day. I know a lot of people will say, hey, well, turn your screen on 1080. I shouldn't have to sacrifice my experience with using the device just to get the, the recommended battery life that I want. And I really tested it, guys. Like I said, when I went to the mountains to that racing event where I dropped the pictures at, I use it for GPS up there in the mountains. It's searching for signal. It's doing all that, guys. And this phone went down very quickly. And my I brought my SA Plus along too, and it was right by my side and it was still going. So those 200 milliamp hour, guys, makes a big difference in my opinion. And I guess I understand it with them not having the space that they say to put the battery in there. And that's maybe due to the S Pen internals. But once again, guys, the battery life is something that I'm not too sure about when it comes to the Note 8. Yes, you can make it all day, but can you go absolute beast mode on it and you can expect to make it last through the day? No, you can't. Next, we're going to look at the S Pen feature, guys. Now, I really can't comment much on the S Pen features because honestly, guys, I don't use the S Pen. And I know I'm probably limiting to myself about, a lot that it can do. But I do not use the S Pen at all. I know it is a very powerful tool when you do use it. I do find myself taking screenshots of something and pointing, doing the arrow and say, this is where you click or something like that. But for the most part, guys, I don't use the S Pen. I almost could do fine without the S Pen. I know it's very powerful, and I may do another video just going over the S Pen features, but right now I never use the S Pen unless I got to sign a document or something and then email it back to somebody. But for the most part, I'm never using the S Pen, so I really can't comment on the S Pen that much. But the couple features that I do use with the S Pen, it actually does it. It does it well, and I know the purpose for the S Pen, guys, and this is what separates the Note apart from the Samsung Galaxy SA Plus. And somebody asks me all the time, should I upgrade from the SA Plus to the Note 8? And I would say, if you're going to utilize the pen all day long, if you're going to use the pen, then it's the way to go. But if you're not going to use the pen at all, you'll be fine with the S8 Plus. And me, we're using these devices side by side. The S8 Plus is still a great device, and I can actually use the S8 Plus just as good as I use the Note 8 and be perfectly fine and will not miss the S Pen one bit. But the S Pen feature, guys, they're vast. You can do plenty of things with the S Pen, probably far more than I even know, because I've had the Notes ever since the Note 2, guys, and the S Pen is something that I never really used, over all these years. But if you do use the S Pen, guys, it's a powerful, powerful device, and you can really do a lot with it. So overall, guys, that is my conclusion of the Samsung Galaxy Note 8. It's an excellent device. It's almost the perfect smartphone, but it has its short limitation when it comes to a little bit of the Samsung experience that I don't like, and that battery life. The Note 8s are really becoming some major flagship, guys. And like I said, to me, it is one of the most important smartphones. I just prefer iOS when it comes to my smartphones. But if I had to use Android, guys, I would have no problem using this Note 8 as my daily driver if I didn't care to use my iPhone all the time. You see what I'm saying? So they're doing excellent. This is a great all-in-one device, guys. You mean great screen, great build, excellent camera. I just wish Samsung would just work on the software just a tad bit. They're not far. They've came a long way. We really can't rag on Samsung for its software like we did back in the day. They have came a long way, yes. But for me, I just think it's time for them to just ditch the whole Samsung experience, start over completely, and go from there. So one thing I forgot to actually comment on, guys, is Bixby. Now, I do not use Bixby. I don't like how Samsung forced Bixby on us and gave it a standalone button. I feel like that is a waste of time, but I do know Bixby does work the times I've asked it things. You know, I've asked, just when somebody's at work and we're talking about something, and I can ask Bixby a random question, or how old somebody is, or you know, how far away is this state, or something like that, and it works well for that. You know, I did it to set an alarm, and Bixby worked well. I just don't use it, and I don't like how Samsung forces us to use it. They just need to make a fix for us to remap the Bixby button to use it for whatever we can. This Bixby button can be used for so much better things than dedicating to a Bixby device that nobody mostly uses. I don't know if anybody out there says, oh, Bixby is great and I use it all the time. They could be out there and they could work great. That's, you know, I'm not saying it doesn't work great, but I think the majority of guys don't use Bixby, and I don't like how Samsung forced it on us. And I hope in future devices they don't make and I hope they get out of this trend of making a standalone Bixby button. Just make it be like Hey Siri or Hey Bixby or something like that, and it pops up. Don't give us a standalone button for it. But overall, guys, like I said, that is the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 full review. If it is something that I missed, guys, please send me a comment down there in the script, in the comment section. Sometimes I do these full reviews, I'll forget something out, but for the most part, I try to write down what I want to talk about and cover it like that. But we're not over with the Note 8, guys. Just like some channels, you'll see the Note 8 review and you'll never hear from the phone again. You already know we're still going to get into plenty of cases. I have a few case reviews that's pending right now for it. I feel like the device is still fresh. It's still a new device, guys. Don't get overshadowed by iPhone season. The Note 8 is still an excellent device and will continue to be an excellent device in a long time. So, guys, if you like this video, give it a huge thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time, guys. Later.